Welcome to the KimAppa podcast. Jarrod and Robbie here. Sorry, Robbie. Was I too loud then? Did I shock you?
No.
With
No,
the
you
power.
didn't.
Now, I need to ask you something. Does my nose look okay? Is there any issues with my nose or anything?
Yeah, it looks a little wonky. What did you do?
So, you told me to get a helmet for cricket, and the helmet has been ordered. It's okay. I don't know where it is. That's UK postage for you, but the helmet has been ordered. But I was at my kids' training yesterday, and I got a bit bored at the end after I'd done all my training sessions. And I run the wicket keepers because no one cares about wicket keeping, so I can just piff tennis balls at young kids over and over again. And I had the glove, so I started taking glove work with the baseball glove behind the stumps when the parents were bowling. And one of the parents hit the top of the stump and it flicked up and it got me right in the nose. I think you see here. So it gave me a blood nose. And I'm thinking, because I was like, if I've broken my nose and I've got like a bruised face, I'm going to have to go on this podcast with Robbie. And he's going to think.
Yes, you would have to.
Yeah. And he's going to think that this has all happened because I didn't wear a helmet. Whereas in this case, I probably still should have worn a helmet, but it was like the gentlest little like wobbling seamer from a guy bowling like 40 miles an hour, and it just flicked the stumps and got me perfectly in the nose. But don't worry, Robbie, the helmet is coming. I will be in position for the next one. I don't know if this is the right way to start this podcast or not, but this seems to be our bit at the moment. So we're going with as much talk about my face and nose as possible.
Yeah, I love it. I actually love the fact that divine alignment's happening for you as far as getting a helmet is concerned.
When did you... it's funny, I was talking to my son about this, and he said, why didn't you use a helmet when you were keeping? And I said, I've actually never kept with a helmet on before. Like, it's just... I'm a part-time keeper. I don't keep all that much because I'm a bowler. But, occasionally I'll keep. But because I would have kept mostly in the 90s... No, it wasn't that common. When did you first keep with a helmet on, or have you?
I have, of course, I have. Yeah. And, after a certain point, you want to err on the side of safety, especially after. I think after 2010, 2011, started wearing the helmets, especially after the onset of T20 cricket is when it just became that much more relevant because you lose a lot of sight with, players covering the line of the ball, playing the ramp shots, the reverse sweeps, the top edges. And now I think after Boucher's incident also, everyone was like, okay, you know what? You really need to, just kind of be, err on the side of safety here and make sure that, you're wearing a helmet even with the spinners because shit, man, with Boucher, it was like, it just jolted all of us, to be very honest.
Yeah. That was what I was thinking yesterday, even before I took the ball. Like there were no bails on, but I was thinking about Boucher. So it's weird how much it's like changed the way that you think about everything. Because before
I have an interesting.
Yeah, no, go.
Go ahead. Before?
No, I was going to say before. I remember when I used to coach wicket keeping, I would get people always too far back from the stumps. And I would say, no, you got to get right in there. You got to have, be able to smell the stumps. And now I'd be like, just remember those bails can come up at you. The ball can come up at you. You get it back. These days, the way that people use the crease is different. So people go further back in the crease. You've really got to think about your safety a little bit more. Whereas we never thought about that at all in the 90s. It was just like, you need to be able to smell the batter's cologne.
Yeah, and we still can sometimes, even if we're wearing a helmet, buddy. But I reckon, now it's not just about the face, but it's also about the head because of how deep players get. So if you're standing in that position and they've come too far back and the ball's bounced enough, they can actually smack your head with a bat.
Yeah.
So many times the bat's just gone really closely past you and then just above your head, and you're like, man, this is like too close. You got it's just essential to wear a helmet right now. I have an interesting story actually. It's a former selector of ours from Karnataka. His name is Sanjay Desai. So growing up, mid 70s, early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, he was playing for the Karnataka Ranji Trophy team, and he was I knew him as a coach at the academy that I used to go to growing up, and he had a glass eye. And we often wondered, like as youngsters, we often wondered why. And eventually, over a period of time, I became pretty close to him to the extent of knowing what his story was. And story goes that he was playing, I think, a first-class game or a league game, one of the two. And he was a wicketkeeper bat, very solid wicketkeeper bat, right? And technically very correct. And everything that you needed as a cricketer in the late 70s, early 80s. And a run out, it was, where the ball hit the stumps and the bail went into his eye and kind of got stuck there. And then he had to and then surgeries, multiple surgeries. Incidentally, Bauchi had about, I think, about 8 or 9 or 10 surgeries before being where he is at this point in time. And so, like, these are things that people don't really know about, but that's why it's so important to be safe. And that's when you told me you feel unsafe when you wear a helmet, I was like, what is this guy smoking?
It's actually, I think for wicket keeping, that I don't think that a batting helmet is the right option either. Like, I think we still need to work through a little bit more about exactly how we do it. So I think,
Yeah, you get wicket keeping helmets now.
Yeah, was it McGlashan, New Zealand's wicketkeeper, who used the hockey mask? And we've seen some other versions. So I think we'll actually see multiple.
But that doesn't
different
protect
versions.
the head, right? It doesn't protect the head, like
I think you
the
need
baseball mask.
Yeah, I think you
the
need something a
baseball
little
mask
bit
doesn't
different.
protect the head. DK used to keep with the baseball mask, and that the baseball helmet, and that really didn't protect the side of the back of the head. It's just a strap that goes around and holds around, just protects your face. But I think with the way cricket's played now, you need to have something that covers the head. And now you can see a wicketkeeper's helmet. It's much lighter. Even the grill's much lighter, and the weight of the helmet's much lighter. And right at the nape of the neck, they have a little bit of a shape, like almost a semicircle. It's like 3/4 of the way there, and so that when you do sit down, when you do squat to keep, it doesn't kind of restrict your neck movement. And the batting helmet's actually restricted quite a bit.
No, it's very interesting. Anyway, I got hit in the face. Okay, so let's go to the points table here, and have a look at what we've got. So, Gujarat is there's some violence in the YouTube here. We just keep swapping positions. Anyway.
It's fine. I don't mind it. I can be Jarrod Kimber for 2 minutes and say something, get away with it.
Oh my god! We should do that one time. Do you know what? We should write scripts for each other for what we've actually wanted to say, but we've never been able to get away with as ourselves. Allow the other person to get away. Anyway, that's another day, and we won't tell you that we've done it. Gujarat.
And as long as there's a disclaimer right before that, these are jokes only in that placard.
Joke. So Gujarat yesterday, they won again easily. They go to the top. RCB is still up there with 17 points, and Punjab have got 17 points as well. So it's a fascinating one with Punjab, Mumbai, and Delhi all playing each other for the last couple of weeks. So Punjab can't slip out anymore, but obviously they would want to try and get the double chance. But Mumbai and Delhi can still exchange places, and there is a mathematical chance for Lucknow to make it to the finals. But worth remembering that Lucknow have to win 3 of their games, and I think 2 of them are against, is it Gujarat and RCB? I think they've got coming up. So it's very unlikely that they win all 3 of their games. All things considered, I think probably the top 4 is the top 4. I think it's very hard for Delhi to get in, but there's still a chance.
Well, there is still a chance, and the funny thing is, the interesting thing is they find themselves with odd points, right? And MI and DC go up against each other, don't they? And that's an important game.
All 3.
So I think
number 3, 4, and 5 on the graph here all play each other. That's the rest of their season. It's just like a tri series amongst themselves while the rest of the league is going on.
Yeah, and I think one of them are going to go out, and I think one's already there. I think between MI and DC is if I had to put my money on someone just purely on instinct and not on anything else, it would be, because it would be on DC. Actually, it'll be on MI, because right now I think DC have created hierarchy with their 11s, right? They're playing 11s. Every game there's a change. Every game somebody else is opening. It's so much confusion. Like, just for viewers, if there's so much confusion, can you imagine the amount of confusion they must be experiencing within the unit itself? There's no real clarity, and I think that's something that, and this often happens with teams, right? When they find themselves off to a good start and they lose momentum, it's important not to be reactive at that point in time and actually trust the process that has brought you to that point that far. And if they don't, stuff like this tends to happen. I've seen this so many times in the IPL. For me, Mumbai, I think, will qualify as the 4th, in 4th position, I think, because all these guys have 2 games to go. But how well are Gujarat playing, man?
Oh. It's It's interesting because they're playing great, but does the way they play change when Butler goes? Do you know what I mean? Like it's so much of that. I've never seen a team ever, I don't think, over a long period of time be so dominant by a top three. Right, three players, yes, but not usually the 1, 2, and 3. Like it might be like your openers are really good, then you got a great number 5 and number 6, right? And this is the top three, so no one else in that team is battered, right? And Sudarshan and Gill at the moment can bat, knowing that even if they lose a wicket, maybe the most informed of the three of them might have been Butler. He's going to come in next. What happens when that isn't the case? Does that mean they just pull back a little bit and bat a little bit slower? All these guys who haven't faced enough balls suddenly get in important games? I mean, if you put Butler in the side, you would have to say this looks like the team to win the championship. But taking that one player out, and there's no replacement for Butler, right? There isn't a secondary Butler on the market.
No, I think Sharafi and Rutherford is someone who's been doing really well in the middle order, so they won't change him.
Yeah.
But at number 3, they need to find a solution. They need to have someone. What are their options though? Do they have decent options?
They've got Mendes is who they've signed, isn't it? To bring in. So I think
Kusal Mendes.
Yeah. Well, who has he
Kusal
been? I think he started making runs again recently, didn't he? I mean, he's one of these players.
Kusal's a top quality player, dude.
I was going to say he's a
top quality player,
but he's not specifically been a great T20 player throughout his career, and he's probably taken a little bit longer to develop. I think you and I would have seen him when he was pretty young, right? And we both would have looked at him and go, "Oh, how good's this guy going to be?" It's taken a long time for him to develop, but I think recently he started to make more runs in T20 cricket and look a little bit more, the player. But even if we say he's a top quality player, do you know what he's not? He's not Joss Butler.
Sure, he's not Joss Butler. As in it's going to be hard to find a like-for-like replacement like Joss Butler out in the market today. Having said that, they got to do the best they can with what they have, and what are the options they have. As in, would you see someone like a Shah Rukh Khan batting at number 3? I don't think so. And then that means, and he can bat at number 3. Oftentimes when you give these guys, these big hitters, a little bit of time to bat, they actually enjoy it. Some actually enjoy it. And I think Shah Rukh probably is one of those. Or they go to a Kusal Mendes, like you said, who's really improved as a T20 player over the last 18 months or so. Because I've seen him play and played along with him in a couple of leagues outside that I've played here, and he's really good. And he's like super confident with the way he plays. I remember it was ILT 20 a couple of years ago where he played exceptionally well, and there was a T10 where he played exceptionally well with like consistent performances, and that's hard to come by in T10 cricket. So I think, and that's the thing about T10 cricket, T10 cricket actually opens up a batter's game like they've never imagined before, right? You suddenly have very little time, but suddenly you feel this immense amount of freedom where it's just a hit or miss, and then you kind of double down on that. The freedom that comes with that is insane. And I truly hope, like, especially for Indians who haven't played this version of the game so far, just for them to, even in practice matches, just play T10 games and get in that mindset, okay, T10, and play this form of the game. It just opens up your T20 game so much. And for me, it's after playing T10 when I realized, man, I could have very easily batted in the middle order. I don't know what this block was that I had. Because when you don't know, you don't know. And then suddenly when you know what you don't know. And then like, shit, I wish I knew this, And for me, T10's that. I think it'll be a huge blessing for batters, especially in the middle order, for them to go and experience what T10's like. And then they'll see the game just kind of split wide open.
Yeah, I remember talking to some of the West Indians, and they said similar things to you of like, they thought of themselves as anchors or top order players, or things like, oh, I'm only here to hit pace and I can't hit spin. And then they got to T10 and they were like, oh, I don't have a choice. I've got to try and hit everything for 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And it just changed the way, it like rewired their brains a little bit.
Absolutely.
Just on number 3, is it possible Washington
Sundar
bats at 3 as well?
I like that. I actually like that quite a bit. I think he's untapped like resource, untapped talent at the and you're hoping that in Indian cricket now he gets a longer run and is able to kind of cement his place into that Indian side, because I think he's a high quality player with with tremendous amount of potential. I just think he needs the right amount of opportunities, and I think as time wears on, I think you'll see a lot more improvement in him as a test spinner as well. I think he can be a little bit flattish when he comes to bowl in test cricket, and if he can learn to give a little bit of loop to the bowl slightly slower through the air, then he make a very very like important choice for India moving forward, especially outside of India.
No, I think he's a fascinating player in the future, because I've been backing him for a long time, and everyone's like, oh, he's done. I'm like, all-rounders don't even mature till they're like 26, 27, guys. Like, and he's got so much experience, right? He's been, he's played for franchises where they won't bring him off the bench. He's been, he's had to play for India at the last minute when he wasn't expecting to play. Like, all those things really, really, change things a little bit. Sanket is very upset you mentioned T10 cricket.
Is he?
But Sanket, it's important to know, it doesn't matter if T10 cricket is meaningful or meaningless. We're talking about
Correct.
your chance to actually expand your game. Like, it's a bit like, in the 90s when they all got obsessed in golf by, the distance that people could drive. Whereas before that, no one really cared that, who was the leading driver on a golf. And suddenly everyone got really obsessed with how far people could drive. That's changed golf forever, right? Because now you have so many power players in a way that you didn't have before. No one goes back and worries about the competitions on who was the leading drivers in at that stage. What they're more interested in now is how you can use that power on a normal golf course to change the dimensions of a golf course. That's why T10 is quite interesting, and that's what we were talking about there. Let us. Oh yeah, I want to talk about yesterday. You watched yesterday's game? You watched both the games?
I watched one of them. I was busy playing paddle.
Oh, of course you're playing paddle. At least it wasn't pickleball. Which is much worse than paddle. Okay, so the second game is the one you watched, yeah? The Delhi one?
The first one.
Oh, okay. I want to talk to you about the second one you didn't watch.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, go for it.
There has been a lot of talk on the internet about the match losing 100. Right? And of course, this is something, I think the first time we started talking about it in about 2016, 2017. I know me and Freddie Wild would talk about it quite a bit. And then I think Freddie Wild and Tim Wigmore wrote about it in their book, that in T20, you can actually bat for so long that you cause a problem for your team. And then beyond that, it's now become a pretty modern thing. I now call it Schrodinger's Kohli after the T20 World Cup final, where everyone was like, is this innings going to win India the game, or is it going to lose India the game? You don't know until the second team is batted, right? Like, of where these things are going to go. So yesterday, KL Rahul makes 112 out of 199. He faced 65 balls, so 5 more than parity, 5 more than half the balls. And he scores 112 with a strike rate of 172.3, right? Now, they lose this game with an over to spare, Robbie, and it could have been more overs to spare if Gujarat wanted to go a little bit harder. But Sai Sudarshan scores 108, and his strike rate is 177. And Shubman Gill scores 93, and his strike rate is 175, right? So if you go back and you have a look at the Delhi Capitals, the real issue was that Faf du Plessis was 5 off 10, and Perel was 30 off 19, and who was the other one? Akshar got stuck a little bit. He eventually hit out, but he got to 25 off 16. All of those guys scored way slower than KL Rahul. He did one half of the job, and it wasn't until Tristan Stubbs came in at the end. The real issue for that team was that no one could score in the first 4 or 5 overs. But I thought there was a little bit in the wicket. The ball was swinging quite a bit, far more than we saw in the second innings when the other two openers were batting. But the issue now becomes, Robbie, that every time KL Rahul makes runs and his team loses, he's just going to be attacked with the fact that he doesn't score quickly enough. I'm not sure this is the best case. I'm not sure this is 100%. And I can tell you what the betting market said halfway through. Halfway through, they had Delhi as massive favorites. And that is hundreds of millions of dollars being bet. Still had Delhi as favorites. When Gujarat come out and don't lose a wicket, I wonder if the score that Delhi made was fine. It's just that Delhi doesn't have the bowling to back up that score, right? And that's another issue here. But KL Rahul did, for 2 different periods during that innings, knock the ball around when clearly he didn't have to. When Rabada was bowling, he was going absolutely ballistic, but he was knocking other bowlers around, and he could have scored quicker. It's a tough one when you're batting first. This is part of the paradox of batting first, right?
I think this is dumb, to be honest. As in, he's got the second highest strike rate in the entire game, and we're talking about, or did he bat too slow? Like, when you're batting first, you never really know what a good score is, especially in a venue like Delhi. And in Delhi, it's always easier to chase down a score because of the size of the ground. You can always put pressure on the bowlers. You need to have a solid bowling attack. And one of the issues that Delhi have perennially had this season has been the fact that their bowling hasn't turned up to scratch at any point in time in this season, right? Aksar has had to do something. Kuldeep has had to do something great, and Kuldeep has just gone off steam just a little bit at the at the back end of the this IPL. So and he hasn't come off. They don't have Mitchell Stark there. It's a big dent in that bowling attack. And then you got Mustafizur Rahman, you have Dushmanta Chamira, again Natarajan. They've suddenly gone to him, and he's played a game after ages. So you're expecting these guys to turn up like they've been in rhythm the whole time. That's the thing I'm talking about. It's not the batting. It's the decisions that have been made by the leadership group as to who they're playing. You have to be preemptive about these things, right? You have to have a little bit of foresight, saying, okay, if something unforeseen happens, who are my other guys that I need to keep in the kind of stream of things so that they don't feel like they have to create rhythm out of nowhere? Because the chances of that happening are slim to none, to be very honest.
Well,
especially in a high-stakes tournament like the Tata IPL.
Yeah, if you are going to beat Gujarat, you actually need new ball bowlers who take wickets, right? Yeah. And so if you look at their lineup, and this is accidental because everything's gone to crap for them a little bit, of recent times. Mustafizur is a death bowler, right? Natarajan is a death bowler, and Chamira is a middle overs bowler. So the 3 seamers that they had there, and so then they went with Akshar, and they made mistakes. Akshar shouldn't have bowled a second over. The ball was moving. Someone said before that the pitch was flat. I can tell you this, that the ball was still, in the first innings, the ball was still swinging into the 6th over. Or 5th over, whatever it was in the first innings. That was not happening in the second innings, but partly it wasn't happening because you didn't have the right bowlers, right? Like, Natarajan did swing the ball, but he was his first game back. He wasn't controlling it. He was bowling absolutely everywhere, and it's not his main skill set in the side. And so to beat Gujarat, now, that is where you could say that there were times in that innings, because remember, Delhi only lost 3 wickets. There are times in that innings where probably KL Rahul should have tried to maximize his score more than he did. Like, I think that's probably a fair conversation to have had. But they were in a situation where they started very slow. He ended up with a very decent score. It's the bowlers that are the reason that he had to maximize that score, though. I think I had no issue with the 200 at the change of innings. My issue was 200 with that bowling lineup was the problem. I just couldn't see how they were going to be able to defend that without getting early wickets or Kuldeep going on an absolute tear.
All right. Okay. I'll bite. Okay. I'll bite, Jarrod. Now, let's say he had to go a little harder. KL had to go a little bit harder. And say in that pursuit, he got out. Yeah. My question is, given just us looking at that batting lineup right now and the number of changes they brought to that batting lineup and the number of changes they brought to the movement of the batters up and down that top 5 positions, right? From 1 to 5. Outside of Tristan Stubbs, who augurs for you the most amount of confidence that they could have got a better score than what they have after KL getting 100?
Yeah, because if you look at the next 2, Samir Rizvi, Smashatosh, and Nagam, I think with Nagam and Smashatosh, you don't want them in before the 16th over, do you? Really?
No, you don't.
Right, maybe 14th over for Smashatosh a little bit. Rizvi probably isn't going to change that strike rate of the overall game all that much more than KL Rahul was going to. So you could make a claim, and this is where cricket is played theoretically. Right? You could make if you ask me from an analyst point of view, could I construct an extra 20 runs off that batting lineup? Yes, I probably could, right? But that's not how cricket is played. So what you would
Yeah,
have needed
exactly.
is Stubbs to come in the 12th over, Smashatosh to come in the 14th over, and Nagam to come in the 18th over. You could have probably got your extra 20 or 25 runs in that situation. But you also need all those wickets to happen at exactly the right time because you don't want Stubbs in too early, right? You don't want Smashatosh in too early. And Nagam, I like the way he lines up and the way he hits the ball, but I want him right at the end. I want him to be fully unlocked at the end. So I get your point. And this is also the problem with the fact that this team is not particularly batting very well at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, as in, it's not constructed the way that it should be. Then they're low on confidence, as you said. They're changing their order everywhere else. And what I find frustrating is, I have no problem with people having a go at KL Rahul, but Faf made 5 of
I do.
10. No, I think you're allowed to do that. But you also have to go, Faf made 5 off 10, and Abhishek Paral also got stuck, and Akshar Patel also got stuck. The one guy who managed to end up with the good strike rate is KL Rahul. The other guys all got stuck at different points. Because when Abhishek came in, we were all like, oh, well, he's going to show these two openers exactly how to score on this wicket. And he didn't, right? And
Yeah.
Akshar got lucky because they made a stupid bowling decision where they brought... for the first time ever, they decided to bowl Sai Sudarshan out, and they did it when Akshar was at the crease, and he got away. I think it was a 15-run over, which is the only reason he ended up with a good strike rate was a bowling mistake. You know, from that point of view, everyone got stuck in that innings. The top 4, everyone got stuck, right? And even Tristan Stubbs. I don't think Tristan Stubbs came out and smashed it straight away. I reckon he was. I think he started a little bit slower, if I remember. I'd have to go back.
He's got 2 sixes in 10 balls of a score of 21. So
Yeah,
that's
and
the story, right?
Yeah, and I think if I'm remembering that correctly, it started a little bit slow. I might be wrong, but I was doing the watch along. I should be able to remember that. Let's have a look here. He got 1-6 there, so he was 2 off 2. Yeah, he was about 4 off. Maybe 5 off 5, and then he hits the 6 off Sai Sudarshan in the death with the pull shot. That was a good shot, by the way, but that's a different conversation. The point being is, it's not like any of the other Delhi players exploded out of the blocks, right? And as you said, when you keep changing batting orders and no one's quite sure, and we know, and we both are going to be very honest with this, we both know it does not take a lot for KL Rahul to gear back compared to other batters. If he sees anything that he doesn't like, he will pull himself back in, and he does it time and time again. If you give him a shit batting lineup, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen in the sense that, as see, it's about reading the game, reading the team, and how the team's doing, what is required to give the best chance to get your team to win games, right? Now, if you have a team that's being as reactive as DC have been this season, then it's going to put people into security mode, right? How can I thrive within this ecosystem that's being too reactive, right? You don't want to be too reactive because our game is so complex. It's such a complex game. I'll say it again. It is an individual game within a team sport, right? So you got to keep your performances up and keep the team's performances up. Get them to align with each other. That's not easy to do. And imagine trying to do that in a place where you don't know what's going to happen in the next game. I'm telling you, I predict in the next game there'll still be another change in the batting order. There'll probably be changes in the playing 11, and for guys like Samir Rizvi now, if he doesn't play the next game, it's going to be like, the larger message that is being sent.
Yep.
It's going to be a lot of confusion. So there's going to be a lot of confusion energy in the air there, and I'm sure there is now, because even after a break of 8 days, however long they've had a break before the tournament began again, there hasn't been a semblance of clarity saying that, okay, this seems like, okay, lots happened to us till the 8th, till the IPL got put on pause. But let's take a step back and get a macroscopic view of how do we move forward here and give ourselves the best chance to get in the playoffs, right? And I think, and also to accommodate for the big loss of Mitchell Starc, right? You have to accommodate for that, because he did a bulk of the work in your wins as well. Defending those runs in the death, getting those early wickets. He's done that already this season. So not having him is a big miss. And that's where, to have foresight at the start of the tournament, to be less reactive and just trust the process in the middle and the back end of the tournament needs to happen, which hasn't happened with DC. And we're looking to nitpick at KL Rahul, who's scored, you guys think 170 is an easy strike rate to maintain or to end up in innings with? You got to be joking. Like at that level, at the level the IPL's played at, which is just shy of pure international cricket. And this is a high stakes tournament, which is what makes it the most premium cricket tournament in the world, alongside the World Cups that exist, right? And which is why everyone wants to play this, because they know if they do well here, they're setting themselves up for life, right? And the stakes are so high here. At this stakes, at the stakes being so high, to perform at a level where you're scoring 100, you're looking at the number of the balls that matters. But if you look at just the strike rate, I think that tells you a story. He's held this innings together where everybody else is struggling to score runs. No one's even close to 170 outside of Tristan Stubbs for DC, right? Everyone who's even got 150 have struggled, like not gotten there with ease. They've gotten there towards
fluency. Yeah,
there's no fluency, right? And so for a guy, for someone like KL to actually do that, you got to think about what a great innings that probably is, right? And let's scroll down to Sai Sudarshan, 108 of 61 balls, right? And that is a super impressive strike rate, 170. And then you'll argue that, oh, he's not a T20 player, he's not flamboyant. What about Shubman Gill, 93 of 53 deliveries, 175 strike rate? He's got flow, he's got flamboyance, he's got aggression, and everything that you need for a postmodern batter is concerned, and he's going at 175. So why are we picking on KL Rahul? This is a non-discussion for me, actually.
well, it's not a non-discussion because we just spent 15 minutes on it. But
I
I love
know.
that that's how you. All right, I want to talk one more thing about Delhi. Actually, no, I don't. I want to talk about Sai Sudarshan for a minute here. And I don't know if we've had this. I don't know if we've had the Sai Sudarshan thing. So last year, Sai Sudarshan went on one of the most consistent runs of any cricketer I've ever seen, and he seemed to at that stage find a way to get into an innings and then back out of an innings. He would get stuck, right? And I was watching him yesterday, and he had a period where I wouldn't say that they were in trouble, but there was a period where it looked like he might be dismissed, and that might open and end back up, and who knows what happens after that. And Kuldeep still had overs to come, and he probably was pretty lucky not to be out LBW to a Kuldeep wrong, and that I certainly would have given out on the field, but it was an umpire's call. And so he's found that ability now to slightly unlock his strike rate. So generally what happens is you have a player who can average 40 with a slow strike rate, and the next year they come back and they average 25 with a fast strike rate, right? So they trade off one thing for the other. There's been no trade-offs for him. And watching him yesterday when he got stuck and work his way through that to end up getting to the kind of score that he did, he is upgrading himself in real time at a very young player. I think he can bat multiple positions for India going into the future. I could think he can bat in multiple formats. He might not be needed in white ball cricket because they might be able to find people who can score roughly the same amount of runs at a higher strike rate. No, I'm just saying he might not be needed just because there are other options. But he is developing into a potential all-format batter all the way through. And if you look at recent times, Gill, Prithvi Shaw, Sarfraz, all these guys who were absolutely talked up as child prodigies, Sai Sudarshan's just sort of slowly come up the back ramp, right? We haven't talked about him all that much. And suddenly he looks like this fully developed player who should be able to play in multiple different places around the world, in multiple different formats, in multiple different roles. He's a fascinating cricketer. And my question is, how high is his ceiling?
Oh, well, I think as high as it goes. If this isn't proof for us, then we're just turning a blind eye to the immense talent. Like, this is like talent out of, like, this is rare. To have that level of consistency and, like you said, upgrade himself without it affecting his consistency, right? And the fact that he can up his strike rate so healthily whilst playing the quality of cricket in the style of cricket that he plays, it just goes to show that within cricket, if there is a way you play, you can achieve the things you want to achieve if you are sure about your game. And he's so sure about his game. He's not added too many things here, Jar. He's actually just added 2 or 3 shots. The ramp is one he's added. The reverse sweep is one he's added. That's it.
Yeah, I don't
shot.
think
And
there's that much.
there's no other
It's,
shot. That's it. That's it.
yeah,
It's about
he's probably
knowing
a
how to
little bit.
utilize.
Yeah, he's probably a little bit stronger than he was. Do you remember when he
For
retired
sure.
out in that T20 innings? I don't think his fitness was great at that stage, and also I don't think his strength was there. But he was young, like he was quite young at that stage, so he's probably physically developed a little bit more, and is a little bit more of a professional in the way of how he prepares. So he's probably added that as well. But you're right, and I know this is a very random player to compare him to, but Ajinkya Rahane is a better T20 player on the back of essentially one shot. Right, this ability to sort of flip the balls on the leg side. You could, and do you remember when Jason Roy had that period where you could just bowl wrist spin to him over and over again, and there was nothing you could do, and he's just like Jason Roy did was start reverse sweeping some of them. It completely opens up everything else, and so sometimes it's the ability to add one extra skill, and you see this with footballers and basketballers and everything else. It's like once people know what your moves are, they can game plan. You throw one ratchet in there and suddenly it changes, and the consistency hasn't gone and the strike rates come up. It's a phenomenal effort.
And the beautiful thing about Sai Sudarshan is the fact that the ramp and the reverse sweep, he uses it very wisely. He doesn't overdo it at all. It's almost like a get out of jail shot. And when he feels slightly stuck, he pulls it out, or just out of the blue, and then suddenly it's in the forefront of every fast bowler's head, right? Or a spinner's head when he plays the reverse sweep. And then suddenly you're thinking, okay, this guy's going to play this shot. I have to accommodate for this as well. So might change the field up a little bit, do this, do that a little bit. And just that, like you said, throws the ratchet in the works. And that's something that he's used so well. And I truly believe that this roots from a place of pure self-respect for his own game and the standard he set for himself as a batter, Chair. I think just the standard he set for himself as a batter has just been so high. You could be egoistic about it. It could dent your confidence and make you feel less as a batter. But he said, okay, you know what? There's clearly an area for me to improve. I'm going to come back next year, the next season, and make sure that this improvement is complete. So that when I'm here, that people see it and people are talking about it without it affecting the things that are already working for me. The amount of work and the level of depth you got to do that kind of work from, like we'll only scream praises for Sai, but I think if we go into the human side of what it takes to achieve that level of consistency while adding flamboyance into it in his own style, the amount of work it takes is not small, is immense, and it takes a lot for you to build that kind of muscle memory without it having an impact on your game in any way, shape, or form. And that's why for me, he's an once in a generation all format player that should be used in all formats. And I think India are in a special place that they have three of them right now. Like right at the top of my head, right now, they have Yashasvi Jaiswal, Shubman Gill, and Sai Sudarshan. Outside of who already exists there, these guys are the kind of guys who have the potential to take Indian cricket forward and keep it at the level that they're at this point in time, or maybe even elevate it. Who knows?
So Sai Sudarshan has played. Oh wait, I had it in front of me. 29 first-class games. He averages 39 in them, right? But I looked at this last year because I was obsessed by Sai Sudarshan last year. Literally, you should see all the comments. People go, "Why are you talking about this guy?" And I was like, "Guys, there's something going on here. I don't know how good he's going to be, but there's something weird going on with this player. We have to focus on this guy." So I know this, and I'm just double checking it now. He's got more first-class hundreds than he does first-class 50s. So he's passed 50 12 times, and 7 of those have been hundreds. So yes, he averages 39, but weirdly enough, there's signs there that he's a better player. The issue is, do you push him ahead of some other players who are making more runs in first-class cricket, right? Maybe some more experienced players right now? Or do you just go, look, go back, give us one big year in first-class cricket, one big season, and when you give us that, we'll be ready for you? Or do you, because you and I are both watching him going, there's nothing really within his game that suggests to us he shouldn't translate to red ball cricket. You want to see him with a red ball and you want to see him in those situations. But there's nothing within his game that says he shouldn't be able to do this at the moment.
If Virat Kohli, if that was a standard that went by, and if Virat Kohli had to have a massive domestic season before he got selected for India, then the chances of that happening back then would have been pretty slim, given the fact that the kind of middle order India had when he came into the ranks, right? So you have to understand that people read potential and are able
Yeah.
to have the foresight to see what this player can mature to become if he stays on course the journey that he is on, right? And if he has the hunger to become the best that he can possibly become, or she can possibly become, as far as women's cricket is concerned. So you will pick people on potential, right? And he's shown us that he can play at almost the biggest stage, right? And he's shown us he can perform consistently there. That tells you a story. And for me, I'm not saying chuck him into the test side. Let him go and bat in the India A series.
team, yeah.
Let him bat there. Yeah. Let him do the India A series. See how he goes in that India A series. And if you feel like he's living up to his potential at India A, throw him into that test side. We need batters there.
Yeah. I think if you go back, I'm looking up Virat Kohli's early career. I think he averages around 50 for Delhi. But it's not from many games, right? He doesn't actually play that many. He's only played 26 games in his life for Delhi, and some of those have been more recently as well. So he didn't play all that much. But yeah, I think it was. I was looking this up the other day because I was writing about him. But there's a period where he goes. I think he makes runs against Lucknow. Then he makes some runs at home. And then he's got a couple of he makes runs against Tamil Nadu and Bengal. So he has a period where he goes like 188 not out, 67 not out, 173, 139. So Kohli did have a little run, right? But I think it's harder for professional players to go back and do that anymore. And we are now I think in the history of the game, first class cricket was the best way to work out if someone should play Test cricket. And it's still
it's also a different era now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But you still get positions where, like, I think that Zach Crawley has never showed us that he has the ability to make consistent runs in any format of cricket. We know he's talented, but he's never shown us the ability to make consistent runs. So I look at his first class record and I was like, I don't think he will ever be a consistent Test player until he overcomes that issue that he has. Whereas with Sai, we have now seen him in List A cricket, in T20 cricket, be uber consistent. So I would be looking at the 39 record and thinking about it very, very differently than I would for someone else. And I think that's the thing that we need to, every individual case is different and you're looking for signs. And so the three main things we've seen is the consistency, the ability to adapt to pace and spin, which we've seen from Sai as well, and the ability to upskill himself when he needed to do that. Because at Test level, he's going to have to do that again, right? Like he's going to get worked out. He's going to come up. I was going to say Vernon Philander. Vernon Philander doesn't bowl in. He's going to come up against Josh Hazlewood, right, or Matt Henry, and they're going to be on top of him, and they're going to be like, well, we've got 2 or 3 tests now. We know exactly how to bowl to him for the next 3 tests. You have to have that ability to upskill. He's already shown that in a completely different format, but he's already shown the willingness to do that. So that's what I'm saying. I think you have to take all of those pieces in now, whereas in the old days, it was like, what's he averaging for first-class cricket? And then we'll work it out from there.
Correct. It was. And because the game also only had 2 formats back then. Just had 50-over cricket and then Test cricket
and also List A cricket wasn't that, like, no one was looking at List A cricket stats. So unless you were playing ODI cricket, no one was factoring it in.
Sorry. Because even the jump from say first class cricket to Test cricket was a big jump.
Yeah.
There was no landing in between those 2 layers or those 2 levels, right? And here we are, where IPL's given you that beautiful level there, which again is albeit in a different format, but the stakes are so high. The stakes are almost or close to being as high as Test cricket is for cricketers, right? The amount of pressure that they experience, the intensity of the pressure is about in the ballpark. I wouldn't say the same, but somewhere in the ballpark.
But it's also, what does first-class cricket actually teach you, right? It teaches you how to bat and be consistent and be professional, but it teaches you how to bat on your wickets, right? Whereas now, right, we now have the ability, and it's less for the Indian players, but so much for the other players, right, around the world. Of, you're playing in the Caribbean, you're playing in South Africa, you're playing in England, you're playing in New Zealand, you're playing in Australia, you're playing in Bangladesh, whatever. You have the ability to work on your game outside of that. So the other thing with first-class cricket is, and this is not always the case because there are some very good first-class attacks, but generally, if you get past the main seamers in most places. The first change is not the same. And if you can handle the main spinner of the opposition, everyone else is a step down. Whereas when you're playing franchise cricket, the fourth best bowler might be an international bowler, right? Like, yeah. So it's a very different kind of situation. I find it fascinating. Anyway, let's move on from that. You and I had something that we wanted to talk about here, which is about the way that Rajasthan Royals have recruited mid-season. So they've recruited 2 South African players, Nandre Burger, the big left arm bowler, who's probably unlucky not to be on a squad already, considering the way he bowls. And then the other player was Luhandre Pretorius. And you and I both watched a lot of Luhandre Pretorius, the giant overgrown baby in the SA20, who played on quite a dodgy wicket as well in some of those games and still smashed the ball everywhere. The thing that we're fascinated is he is, in our mind, we've just talked about Sai Sudarshan, who is a very flexible batter and probably can bat in multiple positions. We both think of Luhandre Pretorius as someone who can only bat in the top order. And the one thing that Rajasthan Royals are good at the moment, Robbie, the only thing that Rajasthan, I've said this before, they are good for 6 overs. They are bad for 34 overs of the game. They can basically start the power play. Everything goes to crap afterwards. It's an interesting one for both of us to look at it, to say he's probably the best batting prospect, young batting prospect, outside of the IPL at the moment that you could hire, right? Dilip Brevis obviously went beforehand. And so you would say that he's that player, but he's another top order player, and they already have their 2 openers in Vaibhav and Jaiswal. They have Sanju Samson, who probably wants to be opening as well. At a certain point, are they creating the same sort of thing that we see a lot in T20 cricket, where everyone just keeps getting excited by openers and you hire too many openers?
Well, let's throw a conspiracy into the works here.
Yes, and I said this to you off air. I said this to you off air, and I felt that you were already thinking the same thing. Am I right?
I was.
Okay, perfect. We both came up with this completely independently. Robbie, let's go up with our joint conspiracy theory, please.
So my thing is, if you already have Yashasvi Jaiswal and Vaibhav Suryavanshi and Sanju Samson, and you've just discovered Vaibhav Suryavanshi, why would you go and pick another opener in the middle of the season, unless you are kind of preempting the exit of someone in your side and you want someone of tremendous potential to perhaps replace him or have a backup number 3, especially when the world knows the need of the hour for Rajasthan Royals are like solid bowlers, solid bowling options. They need solid foreigners or even solid middle order finisher options. If there are 2 areas that you need a solution for at this point in time, is a solid middle order bat who can perhaps replace Hetmeyer if he's injured, or a solid bowler who y'all are desperately missing after no Trent Bolt and after not having Yuzi in the ranks anymore or Ashwin. You are in desperate need of bowling, and then you've gone and picked an opener, right? As Luandre is of tremendous potential. He's got immense potential, and it's a great pick, and it'd been a much better pick for multiple other sides. But is there something in the works, stealthily going on with RR in the background?
What we are asking is there a possibility that Sanju Samson is traded? I mean, that's what we're basically saying, aren't we? We're saying that if you've now got your top 2 or top 3 sorted, right? And Luhan's still young and he hasn't played in the IPL yet. We don't know how it's going to translate. But we mentioned the Pal wicket for a specific reason before. That Pal wicket spun more than any pitch has in this IPL by a factor of about 10. Right. And yes, the quality of spin wasn't the same that he will face in the IPL and everything else, but there were some good bowlers bowling on that Pal wicket. It was ridiculous. So you would assume that it's going to translate better than it might have for, some random player who comes in from South Africa in general. So
you know why you would even begin to entertain what you're saying right now is because I see Sanju Samson batting at number 3. One has to understand that Sanju Samson is opening the batting for India in T20 cricket along with Abhishek Sharma, right? Now, if he's batting at number 3 in franchise cricket, right, somewhere it is going to impact, especially with the likes of, Priyansh Arya scoring hundreds, the fact that Abhishek Sharma scored hundreds, Sai Sudarshan is batting the way he's batting right now. I'm missing some other opener. Your Ayush Matre from CSK.
Jaiswal?
Jaiswal batting the way he's batting right now.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's
If
so
he has
many
to keep
options.
himself in the run, if he has to keep himself just in the competition, he needs to be open in the batting. This puts him in a very weak position from the perspective of his own career. So there's something cooking here that we obviously don't have insight about or information about, but just from looking at things and knowing and understanding things, how things work with different franchises and how things work in cricket, you feel like something's actually brewing here.
Yeah. Because Sanju Samson on the trade market has quite a lot of value, right? Like, we don't, I've talked about this so much before. This isn't just an IPL thing. All of cricket does trade so horribly, and they almost always go wrong, right? I think there was a Shikhar Dhawan trade that was maybe one of the better ones I've ever seen. Every other trade I've ever seen in cricket has been... My favorite one was Ben Dunk was like the MVP of the Big Bash, and like a year later, he was traded for a guy who played like 2 games of Big Bash cricket. I was like, that's not a trade, guys. Like, that's just a dump. You're not trading anything at this stage, right? And how many times have Mumbai stolen players for money? That's not a trade. You are buying a player off another team. Yeah. But if Rajasthan, if you think about it from the way that other sports would work, American sports, which are much better with trades than any other place, what you look at is you look at age curves, right? So if you look at the San Antonio Spurs at the moment, they got Victor Wembanyama, who's quite young, right? But also, he might be the best player in the world in 1 or 2 years. So they want players who are going to be able to match him for the next 5 to 7 years of a similar age curve. What you don't want is young players who will take 4 years to develop. And what you don't want is an old player who might only play well for 1 or 2 years at the other end. You've got to find that perfect gap. We've got a teenage opener, an opener in his early 20s, and now another teenage opener from South Africa coming in. Who's the player who doesn't fit the age curve of that team if they are thinking we probably can't win the IPL in the next 2 to 3 years, which if you look at Rajasthan's roster looks very, very true. Would you not be better off in developing 3 young top order players who are all of a similar sort of periods in their career, and the one older one, you might be able to get a good bowler from another team. You might be able to get imagine if Rajasthan had an all-rounder. Just dream of that for a moment, because it's been so long, right? Like, imagine if you could get someone like that. Then you can start to change things and actually start to build towards a future, right? You might be up, and it's not just Sanju Samson's one player we're talking about here. There are other players that they could also put up for those kinds of trades and to think about it. So it does make sense if that's the way you're thinking about roster construction. It's not always the way that IPL teams have thought about it because of the mega auction, right? So mega auctions do change things up a little bit, but you can understand that. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying is that if they do believe in Luhan, and he plays for their team in Pal Royals, right? That's the same franchise. Like, they would know more about him than either of us would, right? They'll know how he trains and everything. It does mean that they have the 2 teenage batting prodigies in world cricket at the moment, both of their squads as well, which is also a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm just putting that out there, right? Nope, we're not saying anything.
I think like imagine if they had someone like Marcus Stoinis in their ranks, yeah, and with RR. And now, if this does go through, or if this does happen, this conspiracy does come to become a reality, who's going to lead RR? They'll go to Riyan Parag, sure, but is that the future of RR? Then I think there's a lot of work to be done, and they'll need to rebuild their side, and they'll have to start from next year then.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating one. It's absolutely fascinating. I see someone in the comments. I've lost it now. Is it Sai? What is Sai? Sai said Sanju Samson to KKR next year. And captain. All we're saying is,
what about CSK? He's right for CSK.
Oh, he hit the rebuild.
He hits. Yeah, imagine Sanju at CSK leading, because he fits into that daddy army age, right? You're 30, 31, you're in there, and he's a high quality player. He can bat at number 3 or open the batting today. Like, as in if again, that again depends on his career and his international career and how that's going to transpire. Because if like he finds himself behind the 8 ball, according to me, at this point in time, because I think some of these youngsters are going to get a look in as far as T20 is concerned. So when the opportunity does come for him in T20 cricket, he's got to make it count, because these guys are right behind his heels there.
I actually think the other option is they keep him and bat him at 4 because of how well he plays spin. Well,
too low.
It is probably too low for his talent, but I'm not saying it might not be for roster construction, but I think you're right.
He'll have to kiss his international career goodbye then.
Yeah, and that's the other call, right? He has to make that decision. All right. Let's pivot away from the IPL for a minute. There was something I saw in a county game this week, and I should have said it through to you, but I can explain it to you very much. Glamorgan were trying to win a county game, and they needed
another frog.
Yeah, it was a frog. Glamorgan were trying to win a county game. I think it was Glamorgan. And they've got a young bowler called Ben Callaway, and I was watching him bowl. And you know when you're watching something, you know when you're scrolling on your phone and you're flicking through things, and you're just like, why has someone sent me this? It's just a finger spinner trying to win the game. And it's like, and the fielders are moving, so they've got all the catches around, right? And there's a bunch on the offside. Then they
one
go
wicket to go.
Yeah,
1 wicket to go, right? I saw that as well.
You saw it as well. And all the catches on the leg offside, then they go on the leg side. And I was like, why has someone sent me this? And then I watch it, and then I'm like, I've missed something. So I rewatched it again, and I realized what has happened is he was bowling left arm. No, he's bowling off spin, and then he switches to bowl a delivery of left arm finger spin. And then he switches back, doesn't he, to off spin the next ball, I think. Like he changes again. Now, why I want to talk about this is we've obviously, Kaminda Mendes can do this. I was actually at, I think, Kaminda Mendes' first ODI game in Colombo, wherever we were, when he did this in a game. And we were talking to Gareth Batty, who's obviously an international spinner. And he was saying, if you look at it, I can't remember which one it was with Mendes. He said, if you look at his left arm finger spin, I think he was talking about, he said, that's probably low end international quality. But if you look at his off spin, it's probably closer to club level quality, right? And what he was saying is that how would Kaminda Mendes have spent enough time practicing both of these skills, right? He would have to, especially if you're a batter, which Mendes was, how do you spend enough time bowling with your left arm to make your left arm international quality and to make your right arm international quality? That's the interesting thing with someone like Ben Callaway or Kaminda Mendes and everything else. It's not that they can do it, because we've all heard stories about cricketers who can bowl left arm, right arm. I think Jofra can bowl with his left arm. I've seen Jofra bowl in the nets, quite good spin with his left arm. But the ability to get it to franchise level, international level, top level first class, to make it a genuine threat, I think that's the thing that is going to be really hard, because you need the reps, right? How many times has he been able to do it? So he can do it in a situation like that where it's like, you might as well, because you need to mix things up. But it's very, very hard to be able to do that at the level that he would need to be a top level professional.
Yeah, it would be, obviously it's going to be hard, because the biomechanics in itself changes so much, right? And it's the same body, right? You're like drawing out of the same bucket and doing two different things. And how much, what is the level of practice that you're going to get, or repetitions that you're going to get to build the kind of muscle memory that you need, or to get to the quality that you need at the international level. So one's going to be, and I think he's admitted to it. He admits that he's more a dominant, like I think he's more a dominant right-hander. So his off spin is, he feels that his off spin is his main skill, while the left arm spin is what he manages himself through with, and that's going to be the case, right? And along, comp that with batting, then it's going to be something that he's just going to have to manage. And I can see the value in it in certain situations, on certain wickets, especially turners. And I've heard stories. I've not seen anybody do it, but I've heard stories. I've heard a story of Sunil Gavaskar actually in a first class game where Mumbai played Karnataka, and on a ranked turner, I was turning 4th day or 5th day. It was a knockout game or something like that, and 5th day, and Raghuram Bhatt, who is a very renowned left arm spinner for Karnataka, also played, I think, one test match for India. So he was bowling, and some of the batters were struggling against Raghuram Bhatt. And then I think the story goes that Sunny sir basically came in and said, man, you just have to play with the spin. Or, if you think it's too hard, I'll show you how actually easy it is. And he went and batted 6 overs against Raghuram Bhatt on a turner, left-handed.
He
And
did.
he survived.
He actually, the story goes further. It's in my book.
And I didn't even know.
So he
What a plug.
basically he moved himself down the order and he put up
Yeah, he did.
a left-hander, and the left-hander didn't last very long. And then he spent a lot of time arguing with them off the field about whether he should do it. So they'd already lost the game. It was a final, but they'd already lost the game. But the other, I can't remember, who did you say the team was? Was it Karnataka? Did you say it was? Yeah, I think they wanted to win outright because they wanted to beat Mumbai outright. Like, so it was a big
outright.
thing.
There's always that thing.
But the thing is, you talk about him batting left-handed. He batted left-handed at one end, Robbie, and he batted right-handed at the other end, which I think is even more remarkable because I think at the other end they had a off-spinner. So he faced the off-spin right hand. It could have been. I can't remember the full lineup, but it's at one end he's facing right-handed, one end he's facing left-handed, and he never did that again, right? Which I think tells you that even though he made it successful, they ended up drawing the game. So, drawing the game, losing the final, but drawing the game. But it's really, really tough. And I know that I think I think I've talked to David Warner about this because he grew up right-handed, turned himself into a left-hander, and did think about at certain times whether he should go back and try some right-handed in certain situations. But he kept saying, I don't practice it enough, and I'm not sure I would feel particularly confident. And I think when Sonny talked about it, he also said, it was a game we'd already lost, and it didn't matter that much, and it's still like people didn't like that I did it. I think there was like a report at the time going, Gavaskar ruins cricket or something like by doing it. Like it was that kind of a moment. So it's not that players aren't skilled on both sides of their body and don't have that ability to be able to do it. We've had ambidextrous cricketers before. We still haven't had a lot of fielders who throw left and right arm regularly. There's someone in modern cricket who does it, and someone in the comments will remind me who it is. But the two that I remember from old times are Ian Harvey and Alan Border, who could both throw left and right arm. I spent like a summer once trying to teach myself to throw with the left arm, Robbie. And by the end, I was actually worse trying to throw with the left arm than when I began the summer. But eventually, I went backwards. By the end,
this stuff only happens to you, bro.
Oh, dude. And I was like, and biomechanically, I was like, because my right arm throwing, like I was asked to play baseball because I had a really good biomechanical right arm throw, and I was like, all I need to do is like match it, and it was like flopping out of my hand, and I was like, I couldn't get my right arm in the position. It was terrible.
Yeah.
I've got many stories of how I failed as a cricketer.
I'm actually slightly ambidextrous. I can actually bat left-handed. In fact, I have a pretty decent golf swing left-handed. I should send you a video. And that's why the reverse sweep came so naturally to me. Yep. And so something that if I kind of nurtured, I probably could have done it. But even there's a Sri Lankan batter, the opening batter who bats like Sanath Jayasuriya, who used to be a right-hander but became a left-hander because Sanath was his hero. What's that? Kushal Mendes?
Pereira.
Kushal Pereira. Pereira. Right?
Well,
so he used to be a right-hander growing up, proper.
Is Sachin Tendulkar
ambidextrous,
right?
Proper.
Yeah.
Proper.
And I think there's a few cricketers, a few batters, and so my theory is that if you're right-handed, you actually should be batting left-handed, and what we call cricket is left-handed, because the top hand is the stronger one. So I turned all three of my kids, I made them bat left-handed because of this, but it turned out that my middle son is actually left-handed, but I think he's a bit like you. He's a little bit ambidextrous because we take him down to the golf place, they don't always have the kids' left-handed clubs, and he just picks up a club right-handed and whacks them. So I do think there is an element of that is actually a big advantage. And if you talk to a lot of the older cricketers, and we talk about, Alan Border we were talking about before. Clearly he's ambidextrous because he could throw left and right hands, and yet he was a left-handed batter. So, and you look at people like Michael Clarke, who bowls left arm but bats right-handed. So I do think there is Ryan is another one. So I do think there's a few. Mike Hussey's another one. Bowls right arm and bats left-handed. I do think there's something within it because it's not like. I think it's different than golf, and it's different than baseball, and it's different than tennis because the two hands are they work together in a way that they don't quite work together in the way that those other sports do. So anyway, it's fascinating.
I've actually tried
Ambidextrous
playing
cricketers.
paddle in left as well. I'm not the worst.
I've never played paddle in my life, but I would love to play you
It's an
left-handed.
insane game, dude. Yeah,
Oh, but-
let's try it. Let's try it. When I'm
Yeah.
there, well, let's try it. Let's give it a go.
I played tennis and squash and badminton, so I'm assuming paddle.
Oh, then
is
you
some-
love it. You
Yeah.
will love it, brother. It
I
is
won't-
so good.
I didn't say I liked those other sports. I said I played them.
Oh, if you played them decently, then you'll love paddle.
All right.
Because paddle is a combination of tennis and squash.
Well, when you come to Birmingham, we'll find a court. I've got a friend who wants to challenge you as well. So
Yeah,
you know,
love it.
We'll get you all down there. I'm only going to play you left-handed though. I don't. It sounds like you actually know what you're doing. I don't want to play someone who knows what they're doing. A couple of other things I want to talk about this week. You played in Zimbabwe a little bit in your career back in 2015, which is probably not one of the
My
greater.
last series for India.
Was it?
Yeah, that's
Last series.
Yeah, my last series for India. Yeah.
You also would have grown up at a similar point that I did, where we kind of grew up when Zimbabwe cricket was at its best in the 90s, and so they were a lot of people's second favorite team in the '99 World Cup, right?
Yeah.
When
They're the
Neil,
dark horses one day.
yeah, when Neil was smashing the ball everywhere, and Neil Johnson was smashing the ball everywhere, and and they had a really fun team to watch at times.
Yeah.
I just wonder how they're playing this big test match this week. They've got a really good bowling attack at the moment. Their batting's still a little bit shakier, but Sikandar Raza's made himself available. I kind of wonder, for you, how you kind of view Zimbabwean cricket now. There's a tinge of sadness, I think, for those of us who grew up the way that we did.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say I absolutely love Zimbabwe. Like the people, the place. It's such a beautiful place, right? The people are so nice. It's such I love going to Zimbabwe, right? Yes, there are limitations as far as infrastructure and all that's concerned, but the warmth that the people give you is just amazing. I've always had a great time when I've gone to Zimbabwe, and I've enjoyed playing cricket there. And you meet different kind of people, and it's such an awesome place, right? And their cricket is definitely I wouldn't say struggling, but yeah, compared to where they used to be, definitely nowhere in the realm of the same place right now. But there is potential, and I think that potential, if utilized well, there is skill there. There are players who can play. They need to be developed, and they need to be channelized, and there needs to be a semblance of investment of time and money into these people who are talented in that country. Get the right coaches, have the right academies, have the right coaching programs for these guys, share experiences, and then I think if that's done for a certain period of time, then you'll see the resurgence of perhaps Zimbabwean cricket. But they have, their bowling is good. Their bowling is really, really good. There's this guy called Luke Zhongwei, who's like, Zhongwei is a potential, he's an all-rounder, can bat and bowl. Immense talent, but just lack of direction, right? And if someone like him had just direction and discipline, and just that determination to say, I'm going to be the best that I can possibly be, man, I'm telling you, he's got the caliber of perhaps a Neil Johnson, or in the same ranks to that. He just needs channelized attention, like focus and attention, and someone to kind of hold him true to that vision, that one, and of just realizing his potential.
Yeah, you go through like some of their players. Obviously, they've got Brian Bennett coming through at the moment. They've got the sort of Sean
There's a
Williams.
Ryan in there.
Hey, Ryan Burl.
Brian Burl, man. Oh my God, big burly guy, and he can hit a long ball and bowls leg spin. If he just invests time on just batting and his leg spin, IPL will be a no-brainer.
Yeah, and you look at their bowling, and they've lots of players as well. There's a guy who plays for Kent, is a Muyeye, who plays for Kent as well, who is a very good young player. But you look at their bowling, and they've got your Blessing, obviously, is the famous
Musrabani.
one. Yeah, but you look at Angarava, I think he's a really good bowler as well.
He's
And
very
they've
good
got
as well.
like they've got about 3 or 4 other guys who are decent sort of seam options coming through. They keep finding these all-rounders like Sikandar Raza and Sean Williams and Burl and everything else. Like there's something there. And of course, Ben Curran's going to play for them as well. The first Curran to play for Zimbabwe of modern times, because both of his brothers obviously went on to play for England, but his father played for Zimbabwe, didn't he? Kevin Curran, who is a fantastic cricketer as well. So yeah, it's a fascinating time for Zimbabwean cricket, and I'll be there next week, so I'll report back on how the test goes. But if they get a good wicket, man, and there's something going on, we know that England could be a little bit flaky with their batting at times. Like, I'm not saying they can win the game, but they might have a session or two where they can, really make England pay a little bit more. Because a couple of years ago, if Zimbabwe was playing against England, it would have been horrendous. But there's something there, and I've been watching them over the last couple of years with this bowling lineup. There's some good cricketers there, but as you said, it's about development and everything else. Another international story this week is Roston Chase becoming West Indies captain when he hasn't played a test match. When was Roston Chase's last test match? It was like 2 years ago or something. Did you see this?
Typical West Indian cricket, huh? Like there's no smoke without any fire, and when you interact with the Caribbeans and you talk to them about, why aren't we seeing, West Indies dominate outside of T20 cricket? And then they can't really speak clearly about it, but you can say that there's a lot going on, right? And I'm certain you'd be able to enlighten us as to what those aspects are.
So I'm just looking this up now, Robbie. The last test match that he played was in March of 2023. And I think we would both say that Roston Chase is a limited player, but a very good professional. Like he does, he's incredibly fit. He works on his batting. He works on his bowling. He has a very high ceiling. But the fact that you had to go back to someone like Roston Chase, who is obviously not in your test plans anymore, tells you about the leadership culture. It tells you about the fact that they aren't able to keep them. Look, when I worked over there, I think we have to remember, and we see it in the comments here, right? If I talk about Australian cricket and I talk up a Victorian, every comment's going to be about, another Victorian talking up a Victorian. You get little bits like that. You will get it with I know you're from everywhere, but you will get it as well when you talk about a player and be like, he doesn't like this player because of this, and he doesn't. West Indies is multiple different countries. It's 4 different nations essentially running cricket. They all believe that they should be the one running cricket. Barbados still looks down on everyone else as if to go, why are you even involved here? We should be running everything, right? Guyana and Trinidad have got a lot of money of recent times. Jamaica occasionally dominates first class cricket. Then you've got all the other small different places, and the tearing of the fabric of all that is that Shimron Hetmeyer probably should be a test player, right? Nicholas Pooran probably should be a test player. Like their best talent isn't always available. And if you look at some of their fast bowling talent over the last couple of years, they've had some good attacks, but they haven't always had their players available. Jason Holdup retired from Test cricket or stopped playing Test cricket or whatever it was and came back. There are all these different things. There isn't the money, there isn't the infrastructure. And also, if you are, let's say you're Sri Lanka or New Zealand, and you go through a period where you have like 4 bad years of Test cricket, we both know what's going to happen. The government's going to get involved. There's going to be grants. There'll be issues, but someone will try and do something. When West Indies cricket goes bad, why would Guyana spend millions and millions of dollars to try and fix the West Indies team when it's not even the Guyanese national team, right? They might try and fix their players to make sure there are more Guyanese players, but they're not going to fix everything, right? They're not going to take some kid from St. Lucia who is, a 19-year-old batting prospect. So they had a player about 4 or 5 years ago called Kamani Melius, I think his name was, in St. Lucia. But the level of cricket in St. Lucia meant that he had to go everywhere else because, St. Lucian cricket isn't anywhere near what the level of Guyana or Trinidad or these other islands are. So you've got all these micro problems that these guys have all the way through. And the other big thing that I have is that the talent from the age of, who's the big one I'm thinking of? Odean Smith is one of the big ones that you will see of this. But you could throw in Obed McCoy, Chandrapal Hemraj, who I think now plays club cricket. I saw all these guys up close when they were 18, 19 or 20. They're not less talented than any other team's nations, but they go missing, and then they have to develop again when they get to 27, 28. And I'll tell you a story about Romario Shepherd. I met Romario Shepherd when I don't even think he was playing. He was on the bench, I think. And I met him, and straight away I was like, oh, this guy's going to be very good in cricket. And all the other guys were like, you haven't even seen him play. And I went, yeah, but he's professional. Like, he came over, Robbie, as like a 20-year-old and started working me. Being like, so why are you here? And, what's your role? And, all this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, this guy's very clever. And the other guy who did that is Kevin Hodge, right? Now, Kevin Hodge, if you'd have told me that Kevin Hodge was going to go on to have a good test career, I would have been like, I don't know. He's gone on to make hundreds in England and play really good because those two guys were professional in a system that is largely amateur. Whereas it's been much harder for some of those other very talented younger players to be professional in an amateur system because of all the randomness that you have around you. So if you're completely driven, I still think you can make it. But the problem with that is you're probably being successful at 27, 28, which means other countries are getting the best out of their players at 22, 23, 24. And you're losing there's a whole talent drain of these guys who go off and play club cricket in America and T10 leagues.
Because they also have to make ends meet, right?
Yeah, they've got to work for a living.
They have to make ends meet. They got to work for a living. And if this is what they know to do and they're not getting paid when they're playing for West Indies or playing within the West Indies, then they have to make ends meet. Which is why when you're as talented as Nicholas Pooran or a Sunil Narayan or a Russell or a Kyron Pollard or a Dwayne Bravo, and Dwayne Bravo is from that generation that was just pre-T20 cricket, so he came in as a really youngster before T20 cricket and played test match cricket and one day cricket and then became the T20 legend that he is today. But for them, it's a life choice. It's a choice that they have to make about how they navigate through the rest of their lives, because people see us playing the sport, but they don't see what our lives are after we play the sport, and that's the journey that we need to navigate through alone. So it's a personal choice, and I'm all for it, right? I do believe it. Test cricket salaries have to be standardized, and that augurs for an opportunity for Test cricket to remain right at the top, right? If you can at least standardize pays and say it ranges between this and this, and that's the bare minimum that you earn. It should be like, okay, you earn 150,000 playing Test cricket for your country at the base price, right? To whatever else it can be, right? Then at least that, okay, you're able to earn a living and make ends meet whilst doing this professionally, right?
No, 100%. I mean, so
I think
you mentioned Pooran. So Pooran's really interesting. So he made that big 100 in the Under-19 World Cup, comes back and is going to be the next big thing in West Indies batting. He gets into a car accident, and he has an issue with Trinidad and Tobago, and the cricket board there, and he basically stops playing professional cricket for a little while. Yeah. And he has to, and he's, do you know, Nicky? He's quite a driven, sort of quiet kind of guy. And I remember him he's really matter of fact about it all too. He's like, yeah, then I had to do this, then I did this. And if he wasn't like that, I think he just would have been a lost talent. It's because he was lucky to be in that Trinidad bubble. So Kyron Pollard, took him in and mentored him. Dwayne Bravo mentored him as well. Like, he had a few people around him that really, really helped. But if he wasn't that really driven person, he wouldn't have made it. And they came up with, I think they wrote like a plan for him of how he could make it to the top level of cricket without playing first class cricket, right? He had the best guys around him to be able to do that at that time. Yeah. But how many other Nicholas Poorans have just disappeared from West Indies cricket because they haven't had that support structure around them, right? They aren't from the right island.
We'll never know.
And that's the issue of where we are. And so people will say, oh, look at Nicholas Pooran, he doesn't play first class cricket. And it's like, you need to know the full story of why he hasn't played first class cricket, because that is not something that would happen in some of the other cricket countries, right? It just wouldn't, someone like him wouldn't have ended up falling through the cracks in the way that he did with his amount of talent. So it's very, very sad. Can I tell you let's finish this off, Robbie, with a story of, you're going to, I don't know why I keep just giving you stories where you could laugh at me, but there's a good one this week. So Beckenham Cricket Ground is just around the corner from me, and there was a game being played this week between Surrey and the Blaze in the women's 50 over game, and there's some really good players like playing. You know, the Bryces are playing, Tammy Beaumont. I'm just going through the scorecard here. Like, you know, obviously Danny Wyatt was playing, Alice Capsey, and I was like, great. It's around the corner from my house. I'll take my laptop down. Of course, I get there. All my friends are there, so I just end up talking shit for ages, right? And then I sat on the grass bank for a little while, and I was reading a book and watching the cricket, and I was getting into it. And they were chasing. So the Blaze made 346 in 50 overs. God, that Beckenham pitch is good. And
Wow.
And Surrey fell to 227 for 7, right? Alice Capsey's still at the crease, but I was like, this is over.
Done.
Right? So, and I'm thinking, and you know what it's like as a father. You're like, do I really want to sit here and watch Surrey collapse for the next hour? Or should I go home, spend some time with my daughter before she goes to bed, talk to my boys, you know, all that sort of stuff. I'm like, no, I'm going to be a good
Life
dad.
choices.
Yeah, I'm going to be a good dad. I'm going to go back home and I'm going to spend time with my family. I go back home. I leave my phone down. I don't even look at the phone because the game's over, Robbie, right? They were 227 for 7. Alice Capsey's still at the crease. But surely nothing. Alice Capsey then goes on an absolute tear. She makes 125. When I open my phone, right, it's the last over of the game. And I think they needed 4 runs to win. They're 9 wickets down. Right. And I'm now staring at, and it's women's 50 overs cricket. It's not like it's updating regularly. And I'm like, so I had to go to the betting markets because the betting markets move every time. There was a bunch of guys at the ground, clearly there just for the betting markets. There was millions and millions of dollars being bet on a game. There was no one in the ground. There was like 30 of it, maybe 120 of us in the ground. And there was like $40 million being bet on this game on the betting markets. It was hilarious.
What?
Oh, mate. Crazy. You broadcast the cricket game now. And because it was close, everyone got really excited for it. So I'm now looking at the betting markets to see what has happened. And there's like, and the betting markets are going, Surrey favourites. Surrey, no chance of winning, right? Blaze favourites. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? Can I give you the final score? So the Blaze in the first innings from 50 overs made 346 for 9. Surrey ended up their 50 overs, 346 for 9. I didn't just miss a tie. I missed a tie where it could have been either side could have won, and it was 9 wickets down. That's the all I would say is this, and look, me and Robbie will talk about work-life balance and looking after your family in every case, but never leave a cricket game in case you miss out on a tie is my new rule in life, Robbie.
But how will you know? 227 for 7. How many overs were to go when Capsey was batting there?
I reckon 227 for 7. It was that was the 36th over. So they scored about 120 runs in the next 14 overs. 7 wickets down. Who does that? Who does that, mate? That's a ridiculous partnership. Well, a couple of partnerships towards the end. So my friends ended up all seeing a great game, and I was at home, you know, talking to my daughter about her day. But yeah,
good.
There we go.
You wouldn't have seen that coming. From a mile, you wouldn't have seen that coming.
So
I empathize with you about this. Like, I'm like, okay, I feel you. I would have made that choice as well.
I was talking to my son about it, and he was like, "Why didn't you just stay?" And I said, "Do you know what? Sometimes you can know too much about cricket, right? Do you know what I mean? Whereas in that case, if I was a more casual fan, I'd be like, well, Alice Capsey's still here. Maybe something happens. Whereas in our brains, Robbie, we're just like, this game's over. Time to check out. I'll see you next time." Thank you.
I'm calling karma. I'm calling karma for not wearing the helmet on these last two episodes. Yeah. Mother Cricket never forgets.
All right, we've got a couple of super chats here. Alex says, "Is the art of batting out yet?" This book. So we've had a problem with the art of batting. Something has happened with the copies within India, and they don't seem to have been.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. So it's number 1 on the cricket charts in India, but just from the Kindle sales, I am told it is being fixed, Alexander. But you can find it you can find it in the UK, but the digital and the audible versions. I'm not sure if anyone wants to listen to my voice anymore, but if they do, you can actually listen to me read that one out. And Kaushal, I can't find Kaushal's. Someone else might need to do that. But thank you to Kaushal for the super chat here, and if we can find that, we will. Changing Lane says, "Poor KL, goat, but scapegoat."
Look at that profile picture, dude. I can't get over that profile.
Oh my God. What is that?
That's insane.
Is that an AI target?
That's insane.
Pa
Yeah.
says, Robbie spent a lot of time with Narayan at KKR. Is there a secret method or technique to his madness? Reportedly, he's just a very emotionalist, stoic guy who likes to whack everything. Oh, you're talking about his batting? Yeah. Is there a secret method to his batting? It's basically just clear the front leg and swing as hard as possible.
Yeah, he's a lot like he actually grew up as he actually started playing cricket as a batter and batted exactly the same way he did, and then bowling happened to him, and then because he had this whole ability that took over and that took precedence, but he always preferred batting to bowling, and that's why when the opportunity came for him to bat again properly as a proper opener, he took it on, prepared for it. In fact, he and Nicky Puran are kind of cut off the same cloth, so to speak. He's again very matter of fact. He's not emotionless, that I can guarantee you. As in he's he
very
runs,
quiet, introspective.
still waters run deep kind of guy. Yeah, I think he's quite emotional, and but he understands the balance. He's a great guy. I would say he's a great guy. He's a great man. He knows how to deal with his emotions in a way where he's able to express it, but still kind of work it out and figure out what he needs to do. And if he wasn't that kind of a character, he wouldn't have lasted at KKR as long as he has. And they absolutely adore him there, and rightfully so. He's an insane guy, insanely talented. He's worked through a lot of those difficult aspects of his life with his bowling action, with coming back with that, correcting it, and then finding himself as a batter and scoring an IPL 100. I've always given this guy a lot of props, and I think he is phenomenal as a talent and a great human being as well.
I would say two other things just to add to all that is that he started playing a form of cricket called wind ball in Trinidad, which a lot of the Trini boys played, which was like, it's why so many great T20 players came out of there. And the way he bats is a wind ball style. And the other thing is that when he was batting down the order, he purposely started hitting more sixes because he realized that there was no point hitting fours when you come down the order because all the field is out. So little changes to his batting really, really did help. I remember I wrote a whole piece about how he had upgraded himself to start hitting sixes, and it was within about 6 months he was opening the batting. It was wild. Ahmad Sahaj says Akshar tries to play like a proper number 4 rather than the elite pinch spin hitter he could be. Is that psychologically hard for captains to be role players? I'm going to give this to Robbie. I think what happens is if you make someone a permanent pinch hitter in the way that Akshar is, that person starts to think more like a number 4 and less like the sort of player that you want them to think about. And I've seen this with many different players who've been pinch hitters over the years.
Well, yeah, I think with Akshar, I think he's really good at what he does. But I think that whole pinch hitter thing, he can be an elite pinch hitter, but I think that's just natural. His natural disposition as a batter. He plays aggressively, likes to get a move on, likes to kick on, and likes to dominate as well. Like his mentality with batting is a lot like his mentality with bowling. He wants to be the guy on top. He wants to be the guy controlling the situation. And yes, captaincy and the pressures that come with, especially in a tournament like the IPL, where there's a lot of scrutiny and there's you have to manage a lot of other things as well. It does take a toll and it can impact the game a little bit. But I think with him, when responsibility has been added on to him, I think he's dealt with it well. To be very honest, I just think that there's a lot happening, and I don't think we should be dissecting his captaincy and batting at this point in time. I think we need to give it a little bit more time and have a little bit more kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more. It's like right here and it's not coming out.
Empathy?
Shit. No, not empathy. No.
Distance?
Scores.
Time?
Yeah. No. Yeah. We need to give it a little bit more time and see a lot more of how he performs over a period of time with this whole role that he's doing right now, and then kind of say, okay, should he be this or should he be that? And I think right now he's good where he's at. I think if he's playing a pinch hitter's role once in a while, not all the time, he's a good hitter of the ball though.
I'll just tell you a random story. When I was junior player and I played senior cricket. There was one game where I went out to bat at first drop, and I assumed I was playing as the night watcher, right? So I went and played really, really seriously and played in that role. And then I made a 50 and the following week. And I said to the captain, where am I going to bat next time? And he's like, we're going to bat at the top of the order again. And I went, but I'm not really a top order player. And he was like, but you did it. And I said, yeah, but I was playing a role in my head. Like I would have to trick myself every time. And I think where you bat in the order or what role you have sometimes defines your thinking. And if you become, that's the difference between being a spin pinch hitter, whereas actually he's not a spin pinch hitter anymore, is he? He's a middle order player because he bats in the middle order all the time. So you start to think like that player after a period of time. Batting numbers are really weird and how they affect batting psyche at different times.
And that's where role definition becomes critical, and communication.
Do you want to read this one out?
Robbie's batting lefty to Jarrod Pie's videos. Yeah, we should do it. There's a bunch of stuff that we're going to do, right?
We will.
We just need to be in the same location.
Exactly. Robbie's coming out this year. We'll be hanging out. I will say, I have to make sure my shoulder is still actually attached at the joint. I bowled the other day, and it was like, it's the first time I bowled without pain in my shoulder. But now I'm freaking out because I can't bowl the same way that I used to. But if I can bowl properly, because I'm not gonna bowl crap. I don't care if he's batting left-handed. I'm not gonna bowl crap to him. If I can bowl properly to him, and remember, I once got Eddie Cowan out in the nets. No pressure, Robbie, but I once got Eddie Cowan out in the nets. So, you know, that's probably the only left-hander I've ever got out, by the way, as a leg spinner in my life. Poor Eddie. But yes, if we could do that, we've got lots of stuff when Robbie comes over later in the year. And of course, I'm sure I'll be heading over to Dubai at times as well. Kaushal says, India has already walked out of the Asia Cup. Is Asia Cup dead for good?
For all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Asia Cup,
call it as it is.
The Asia Cup only exists so India can play Pakistan.
Yeah. Well, and the other teams also can earn some revenue as well from that.
Yeah, but I mean is, if you take that revenue out, I don't think it's financially a viable.
Not at this point.
No.
Not at this point. No.
So yeah, it would probably be gone. Have we got here? Oh, let's have a look at. Can I bring up?
Well, whoever made this meme didn't know about Butler leaving, eh?
Yeah. So yeah, waiting for Gujarat's top three to falter and expose their middle order with Peter Griffin from Family Guy and the world just changing behind him. Like an apocalypse behind him. What else we got?
Yeah, apocalypse behind him.
Can we talk about Sudarshan yesterday? You missed the innings, but I think his two best shots.
I watched the highlights.
Well, you wouldn't have seen these shots on the highlights. Were literally two shots on drives. His on drive is about as good as any left-handers on drive I can remember.
Divine, man.
But he hit two perfect on drives straight to mid-on and didn't get any runs for them. And honestly, like, his ability to play that shot is just on a level of which... Well, who is the last great left-hander with an on drive? I'm trying to think of someone else. There must be someone I'm forgetting.
Brian Lara?
Yeah, Brian Lara was pretty good. There must be someone between him and Lara. But it's not a shot that a lot of lefties have, right? Like like they can hit through mid-on, but they don't hit through it pretty in a pretty way. All right, what else have we got here?
19th century no dear. Yeah.
I didn't get that. Do you get that?
No, not really. As in context, guys. As in, maybe he's got 3100, so that to get 100 tons, you know.
Oh, okay.
To get to 100
so now
tons,
he needs 19 more hundreds to make it to 100.
More.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
And the last. So they're saying that
this is an Indian movie. Now, this is an Indian movie where a 14-year-old came and dominated the scene and went on to play for India.
Oh,
and they made these movies in the early 2000s, like 2007, 8, 6 types. I don't know, but yeah, it's a sweet movie for kids.
I'm going to turn the sound down. But what I really like about this is if we just play it again, is geez, he's almost killed. What I really like about this is the synchronicity between the umpire and the batter at the non-striker set. I know it's a really small little film moment, but like as a director, I'm like, yes, I really like that.
The funny part for me in that, he's wearing a shin guard as an arm.
Is he? I didn't even see that. Let's have a look.
It's a
You're talking about the non-striker.
The non-striker. Look at that.
Oh my God, yeah. That's just a random one. Also, I hadn't realized how. Do you know what I like about the shirt? The shirt is crap, and it's obviously a fake shirt because they couldn't get the rights to the proper shirt. But it's also the kind of shirt that India would have worn at that time. It's like they've designed it correctly to look like of that era. All right, well, that's it for us today on the KimAppa podcast. Thank you to everyone. Like, subscribe, share, tell your mum about us. Remember, we've got about 83 different channels. You need to find us in all the different places. Like, subscribe, and we will be back again next week for more KimAppa.